Hey everyone, my name is Nick and I was diagnosed with a severe case of ulcerative colitis back in December of 2022. I really wanted to start making these videos because it's been a little over a year now and I'm still in what's considered a flare. And so I want to really document my journey to getting better and hopefully getting into remission. I remember when I first got diagnosed, I did a ton of research and found a lot of YouTube videos with people who had stories of healing and who have gotten into remission, some who have even healed naturally and are on no medication. But I feel like there wasn't really anything of someone really documenting their journey while still in the thick of it. And so that's what I want to do. I'm hoping that these videos will not only help one of you out there who's maybe going through something similar and just will give you a new perspective and someone to relate to, but also it gives me something to look back to in the future in case, I ever did get into another flare, and it can show me how I was able to get out of this one. I'm looking to just share my experiences with everything that I've learned so far and that I will learn in the future, especially because I know that this is something that's not super easy to talk about. One, because it can be embarrassing, but also two, because I know that there's a lot of people going through worse things. But at the same time, I will admit that it's been hard going from a perfectly healthy 19-year-old from when I first got diagnosed to basically my whole life shifting for over a year now, and just struggling to try and figure out what works and what doesn't, and trying to get into remission. For this first video, I really just wanted to give a timeline of everything that has happened since I first got diagnosed in December of 2022 until now, because there's a lot that's happened and there's been a lot of ups and downs. So let's jump back to 2022. I first started noticing symptoms back in September of 2022. The first thing I noticed was blood in my stool, which I was a little bit worried about, but didn't think about too much until about a week or so of constant bleeding every day. So I decided to make an appointment with my primary doctor, who was then able to refer me to see a specialist. The first appointment I was able to get to see a specialist wasn't for about another month and a half, so I just kind of continued living life until then. My symptoms weren't too bad at this time, but I was still noticing blood in my stool pretty much every day. And about a week to a month later is when I started noticing that it was getting a little bit more difficult for me to actually hold my bowel movements. I finally met with my specialist, who decided that I should get a colonoscopy, which we scheduled for around mid-December. And as I was waiting for my colonoscopy, I started experiencing really bad stomach cramping. Again, not at its worst yet, but definitely the beginning stages. I was finally able to get my colonoscopy done and was officially diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in December of 2022. I was pretty scared being told that I had a chronic illness, but honestly just remember being relieved that it wasn't cancer. I then started on a medication called mesalamine, which didn't really work for me at all, but during this time, which was January of 2023, we ended up switching insurances, so I started seeing a new GI doctor, who then put me on a steroid called prednisone along with the mesalamine. But the mesalamine, we think, wasn't really making me feel good, so I actually ended up getting off of that and just sticking with the prednisone for a while. My GI doctor wanted me to start on a biologic medication called infliximab, or also known as Remicade, but since my symptoms were starting to improve with the prednisone, I thought in order to avoid the symptoms that came along with the biologic medication, maybe I could get off the prednisone and just try to heal naturally. This didn't end up working out for me though, and my symptoms started to get really bad, so I started back on the prednisone and then started the biologic treatment. This brings us to the end of January of 2023. So during this time, I started the biologic medicine Remicade. Basically, I would go in every few weeks and they would inject me with a needle and pump the medicine into my veins. But this was not working for me at all. So after a few months of basically being in bed all day, not being able to leave my house because my symptoms were so bad, my doctor decided to do a test to see if I had a C. diff infection, which it turns out I did. I then started antibiotics, which helped to clear up the infection, and got a short infusion, which is supposed to help prevent the infection from coming back. Not 100% guaranteed, but it's supposed to help a lot, and so far it has. Once my infection cleared up, we discovered that my body actually created antibodies towards the Remicade medication, so I then started a new medication called adalimumab, or also known as Humira. This brings us to the beginning of June 2023. So the Humira was a self-injection that I would give myself every 2 weeks, and it actually helped a lot. I started to see major improvement over the summer. I still wasn't 100% because I still was experiencing mild stomach cramping from time to time, and my bowel movements weren't completely normal yet, but I was only having to go about 1 to 2 times a day with little to no urgency and no blood. My iron levels also started to improve because I had become anemic due to the blood loss. This was the first time in months that I was able to live a somewhat normal life. I was going to the gym about 5 days a week and putting the weight back on that I had lost since getting sick. From about December to June, I had lost around 40 pounds. I went from around 170 to around 130. But during the summer, I was able to get up to about 145. I was able to go to school again, work, go out with friends, hike, all kinds of things that I wasn't able to do before when I was just stuck at home. I was still eating pretty strict and healthy, but every now and then I was able to venture out of that a little bit. I was like this for about 3 months, and then towards the end of August is when things started to fall apart again. A sty had developed on my eye back in January of 2023, and I still actually have it a little bit, but hoping to get it taken care of in a few weeks. But anyways, it was still there around August of 2023, and so I wanted to get it removed. So I went to see an ophthalmologist, and she prescribed me an ointment to put on it as well as an oral antibiotic. I was a little bit skeptical about the oral antibiotics, so I talked to my GI doctor. She gave me the go-ahead, but after a few days of starting it, I noticed all my symptoms started to come back. So because of this, I became discouraged with the conventional medicine and thought maybe there has to be another way, and I wanted to try healing naturally again. And this probably wasn't the smartest decision, but I ended up getting off of the conventional medicine without even telling my GI doctor, and trying to go the natural route once again. So I found a guy online who specialized in natural herbs and supplements for ulcerative colitis, and I was working with him for a few months, but his treatment didn't really seem to do much. I think I got a little bit better, but then my symptoms kind of just became stagnant and then ended up getting really bad again. During this time, I also developed a lot of other symptoms due to the ulcerative colitis that aren't your typical symptoms that come along with it. Something I developed in my left eye was called iritis, which I guess is inflammation in the eyelid, and it was one of the most excruciating pains I felt. It's kind of like having a migraine in your eye, if that makes sense, and it was very sensitive to light, so I could barely even open it. I also developed really bad joint pain, mostly in my hip, but also a little bit in my knees, ankles, and elbows. I was having to use a cane to walk around because I had very little mobility. And I got an MRI done, which actually showed that I have severe arthritis in my hip. So during this time, I decided to stop my treatment with the natural medicine doctor online and decided to try somewhere locally, which was integrative medicine. Again, I believe that they helped my symptoms a tiny bit, but then my symptoms just became stagnant again, and then got really, really bad. It got to the point where I decided that I was gonna need the conventional medicine in order to get this under control. So I decided to go see my GI doctor again, and this brings us to a few weeks ago, February of 2024. So I was in the hospital for a few days as they ran all kinds of tests, and was finally released with prednisone once again, which I am currently still taking, but starting to wean off of. The new medication that we decided on is tofacitinib, or Xeljanz, which is basically a pill that I have to take twice a day. And it's been helping a lot so far. Still not totally 100%, but pretty close. I'd say I'm about 80 to 90% better than I was. It's a stronger medication, so it does work faster, but it also does come with more side effects, which I haven't really experienced yet. But obviously they have to monitor me closely for the side effects that can come along with it. So as I was saying, my symptoms aren't 100% better, but they're pretty close, I'd say. I still have some pain in my hip and I don't have full mobility yet, but I'm not having to use a cane to walk around anymore, and it's a lot better than it was. My stomach cramping is pretty much gone. Every now and then I may get a mild cramp, but nothing too serious. The bleeding is gone. The urgency is a lot better as well. The frequency, I'm only going about 1 to 2 times a day, which is normal. And the actual stool is becoming more formed too. I did also recently get an iron infusion to help with the anemia, and I saw a rheumatologist for my hip. He was saying that my hip is in such a bad place that I probably will need a hip replacement at some point in the future, but we're thinking maybe 10, 20 years down the road. but he's thinking we can get me pretty much back to normal right now, either with the UC medication, or if that doesn't work, then he also has a specific medication to target the arthritis. So far, the UC medication has seemed to be working a lot, though. So I'm going to see him again in a few weeks and update him on how things are going, and just take it from there. But yeah, we're hoping that I can get back to pretty much normal, and maybe I won't need a hip replacement in the future, hopefully. Just taking it one step at a time right now. We'll see later on. He did say that I probably wouldn't be able to be totally 100% normal, as in like running a marathon or something like that. But who knows? Maybe I'll make that a goal of mine in the future. You never know. I'm planning to keep documenting my journey and uploading vlogs and videos, and I'm hoping to have a video out soon about kind of what I eat in a day, since I've learned so much about diet and health since getting sick. And I'm hoping that at some point in the future I'll be able to get off of medication and just maintain my health naturally. But for now, I'm just taking it one step at a time. I'm still very much in the thick of it, but at least I'm able to get out and do more than I was able to do before, instead of just being cooped up in the house all day. So if you guys want to follow along on my journey, please consider liking and subscribing, and I hope that I can inspire at least one person out there who's maybe going through something similar or just a hard time in general. Trust me, I know it can be hard. I've had my fair share of rough days, but things are going to get better. God has a plan, so trust the process. And that's it for this video. I'll see you guys next time.